Welcome back to Auto Small Engine. In today's video, we have a Honda EU1000 that's doing absolutely nothing. No sputter, nothing. So we're going to diagnose this thing start to finish. If you'd like to join me in repairing it, stay tuned right after this.
Sounds right.
When I tried pulling this over outside, I ensured my choke was on, my on-off switch was on, my tank cap vent was on, and my eco mode was off. And it still isn't doing anything, so we're going to tear into this. So we're going to start by popping a couple of covers off here, and we will see what we see. I have checked the fuel tank, and there is some gas in it. It seems fresh, but we might have to follow up on its condition. So we're going to start with the easy stuff first. We'll make sure it's got the right amount of oil in it. Oh geez, it's really full. It's pouring out of there. All right. Let's get a little cup and drain it down to the correct level. These should be level with the threads. If you overfill it, you could cause damage. Next step, we're going to move on to the air filter. Now that we know our oil level is correct, see a little bit of residual gas or oil there. No big deal. This actually looks very clean. So I don't think our problem is there. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to spray just a little bit of carb clean in the intake here and pull it over. All right, we got a little bit out of it. So let's try that again to verify. So as you could see, just by spraying a little bit of carb cleaner in the intake port here, it fired right up and it runs fine. If I shut it off, it starts again. So now we got to figure out why it didn't originally start. So typically it's one of two things. It's either gas that's gone bad or a bad choke. Bad choke will do that because if you can't cut off the air, then it will not start. But if you spray some sort of fuel in there, it doesn't necessarily need a choke to start. So we're going to check this linkage here and make sure it's all intact and good. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop this cover off right here to verify it's all intact, and we'll go from there. On these Hondas, these are 8 mils from the intake to the carb. We'll just take this vent line, pop it off there. Just pull that out of the way. And this will allow us to see our choke in here. Yep, it seems perfectly fine. So this leads me to believe the fuel in the tank is bad. I was for sure venting it. It's in the on position, so we were good there. So I'm going to flush all the fuel out of the tank and carb. I was told that this generator ran last somewhere between 4 and 5 months ago. So I think the gas has gone flat. And I also think it was stored outside. So we could potentially have some moisture in the fuel. Next, we're going to drain all the fuel out of this unit. We have to do it in 2 parts. Gas tank will be 1 part and the carburetor will be another due to the fuel pump being buried in here. We do not need to split the case on this unit to drain the fuel. So we'll start with the carburetor here. Ensure the fuel is off. And Honda has this handy little drain line here right off the bottom of the carburetor. It usually comes out here. So we're just going to pull this up and out, bring it out. And I have a handy little gas can that I drain any old fuel from equipment. And there's a flathead screw right on the bottom of these carbs. And you can see the fuel coming out now. And just drain that until you get all that air. And there we go. That's it for draining these. I'm just going to tip this. As you can see, this drain is actually a little bit offset from the lowest point. So I'm going to tip this towards, and we are getting a bit more fuel there. And water, potentially water. There we go. That should do. So we'll close up our carb here. Put our drain back down into where it comes out the frame here. That body, just like that. That sits there. So it's time to put our little intake back on the carb. We're going to take this hose and put it back through here, if we can. There we go. Like so. Run that through. And then you have to ensure this is sitting correctly. And walk this boot back on. Kind of all goes. There's also a breather hose here. I know it's difficult to see. Let me get a light on it. This breather hose here has to be plugged into, like so, all at the same time. There we go. Just ensure this bottom hose is back on. Otherwise, you could have some oil leaking internally here. There we go. And this hose comes down in here. This wire gets put back. Honda's quality, you can just tell, is superior to other brands. Everything is just so well made. They make it so wires don't rub on each other and all that. They go the extra mile, and that's why they cost more. They're just well built. So take our little clip here. I like to put everything back the way it was from the factory. That way you don't have issues. Just like that. This one's a breather, so it just stays inside the housing. The other one comes out here. There's this one as well. Perfect. Put our 2/8. One there. Butterfingers. And one here. There we go. Okay. I always like to follow up my bolts with hand tools, especially on plastic parts. Next, we're going to put our air filter back in. It's nice and clean on the inside, which is nice. That can go back in our cover. Perfect. So what I need to do now is I need to drain the fuel tank on this unit. It's fully internal. There's two ways you can go about it. You can either drain the oil and then leave the oil out of it and tip it upside down. You can completely tip this thing over. I have seen oil slip past rings in hydrolock engines before, especially these little generators. They just tip over in the truck and it can be risky. I'm going to go the safer route and I'm going to split the case. So to split the case on this particular Honda, there's 4 Phillips here. And this cover will pop off like so. There is a snap ring under here. It's usually a little snap ring just holding the housing together. Just pop this rubber up. There it is there. It's actually in the perfect spot. You really want to watch these. They can go flying. So wear your safety glasses. There. And as you can see, what that snap ring is doing is actually holding the split together. Just a little brace. Next, we'll flip it around. And I'm going to pop these off. Same dealio. We got 4 Phillips. And they are different than the front cover. So make sure you keep track of that if you are doing this yourself. There we go. The rubber is a little bit sticky. Okay, as you can see, this back brace is holding the 2 halves together. So now that we have that done, we're getting close. So we have 2 number 3 Phillips here. Holy, these are, that one at least. These are insanely tight. I'm going to grab a number 3 on a 3/8. 3/8 number 3. Hopefully this cracks them without stripping them. There. If I can avoid messing these up, I will. These 2. And lastly, there's 2 number 3 Phillips down in here on the bottom. So let's see how tight these are. These are also very tight, and I do not want to strip these, so let's try this 3/8 again. If you ever find yourself working on one of these, ensure you take the time to crack these properly, these Phillips, because if you strip one of these down in there, that would be very difficult to fix. You'd have to drill it out in there. So as you twist your screwdriver, if it starts to come out of the head, just stop. And I found that number 3 on the 3/8 drive took care of the issue. So, and just keep pressure in there. A bug actually made a little nest on this screw, and I'll show you that here. A bug made a nest, and it was full of mud, and I couldn't get a good connection in there, so I scraped it out and had the Phillips sit all the way in the base of that head. So we're all good there. Got one more over here. That one was good. So now I'm gonna flip this and see if I can split the case. Maybe I'll pop this back off. Split this case. Upon further inspection, I guess it does help to take all the screws out. There we go. Get out of there, buddy. Now, there we go. That's better. So, yeah, there's these grommets on the back for vibration, and I want to keep this side in and pull this side out, if possible, just to kind of keep half together. There. There we go. And this side has nothing on it, so I'm going to actually pop this side off, even though the fuel is on this side. It's gonna be a lot easier. I should be able to just tip the tank over after that. So I'm gonna make sure it's over in the other side. Slide it out like that. There we go. Some oil and gas on that. All right, now we should be able to move our tank. Perfect. Like that. Grommet. So now I can either tip the tank over or take that line, which I might still do. I think I'm going to pull that fuel line off still. I think that's better. Move our tank around. There we go. These out of the way a little bit. There we go. Now we have room to that clamp. It'll be a lot easier to get on that now. See if I can get that down now. Lock it down. Honda makes great things, but these fuel clamps are a pain because even when you max them out open, they still don't want to work with you. There we go. They used a lot of force. Took a lot of force, I should say. So now there's only a bit of gas in here, so I'm going to tip it so most of the gas is down here. I'm going to pop that fuel line off the switch and put it straight over into my can. There we go. There we go. And we can vent it. Let that drain out. There is some oil and gas down in here. Now is a very good time to clean this out. So we're just going to spray a little bit of brake clean and wipe it out. That way it'll be nice and clean for the customer. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll help see new leaks and overall make it nice and clean. Time to put this stubborn clamp back. I'm going to put it as high as I can so I have as little work to do inside the enclosure. So this sits like this. Orientate it like that. There we go. So this may be hard to see on film, but I'm going to get this close. Pop him on. There we go. And then my clamp. Get as high as I can. And I have to get my pliers. Alrighty. So I'll get it right to the base. And I figure if my screwdriver's on the back, it might make it a bit easier. I have to get it towards me a little bit. These are not easy. Try to help it on the back with the screwdriver. There we go. Now would be a very good time to change your recoil rope if you need to. Check for frays or tears or anything like that. As you can see, it's easily accessible to do that now. Ours is in good shape, even on the handle side. So we're going to carry on. There's a grommet here for the fuel tank. And this grommet goes back. How does this go? Like this. This is up. There we go. And then everything's kind of got to get put back all at once. Gotta line this grommet up. And this one down here. Slide this inverter back. So this Phillips lines up with that part that's threaded in this cover. Plug housing, if you will. See if I can get that right in there. So this cover sits against that piece in the plastic housing there. It sits there. As you can see, it sits perfectly in that little lip there as well. So I'm going to snug this Phillips up here in the side. That will hold that in. So basically this side is done. So I'm going to situate the grommets where it sits. There's one here in the top, right there. Make sure it's all the way in. And there's one at the back, right here. There we go. We're ready for our, just about. Now we're ready for our other cover. And I figured it'd be appropriate to use a red rag for this Honda. We'll just clean it all out. For this next part, you have to ensure this grommet is straddling the other half to ensure a watertight seal. Then there's these two clips at the back that need to be in place. They can fall out, so be careful. Then your three mounts, 1, 2, and 3. There's a grommet here as well, and this grommet. Then we could take our cover, and I'm going to start at the top to make sure this gas tank seal is properly installed. And then I'm going to go with the top grommet here, mount. There we go. And then the two on the bottom. There we go. One there. This one here. Perfect. Just like that. It's very important that the seal all the way around is sitting completely closed before you put any hardware in. Otherwise, you could crack the plastic very easily. So we'll pop our Phillips in there and there to start. Go from there. So we'll take this number 3 here, number 3 there, and I'll start those. Just get them snug. I'm going to keep everything loose until I line everything up, in case any little movement elsewhere. Those are these 2 up top. One there. Come on, buddy. There we go. Here. One there, one here. And then I'm going to put this panel Phillips next, because I don't want to get it too tight before putting this one. Line up your threaded panel. And it should start. There we go. I'm happy with that. And don't forget your little snap ring that keeps the 2 halves together. The little security ring. Be a bit tricky, but can be done. There we go. So I'm going to snug everything up now in its final resting place. Last one here. There, those are the big 4 that keep it together, really. And then I'm going to tighten these 2 that hold the plug in. Perfect. I'm going to move on to the 2 end covers. Do the front one. Like that. I'm going to put these loose until I get them all started. And again, I'm going to follow everything up with hand tools, because when you work with plastic, it's easy to break things. Good. Next, we have our back piece. Make sure our clips are in. These are actually the threads for your screws you're installing. So they have to be perfectly in there. Otherwise, you will not be able to start them. There we go. Take our 4 Phillips. There we go. After this, we have a few more covers. We'll throw some gas in it and see if everything's working as it should. So I'm just going to make sure our little lines are coming through the opening here, and everything is situated the way it's supposed to be from the factory. No lines are rubbing. We should be good. Put our final cover on here. Also number 3. Perfect. And our spark plug cover. Pop that in too. So it goes in And you just have to push it in on the bottom. There we go. I'm going to put some fuel in here and run it. I don't suspect we're going to have any issues. We'll throw some fresh fuel in here. So now that we have fuel in here, we're going to vent our tank into the on position, our choke, and our fuel switch. I'm just going to give it a minute for the carburetor to fill up. It's just gravity feeding and filling the carburetor up. I'll make sure our eco is off. Eco off. Let's see what happens. One pull. Runs like a top. Well, there you have it, folks. If you're still watching, thank you for joining me on this diagnostic. It ended up being water in the fuel. If I could go and redo this job, I would not advise going this deep into it. That was a lot of work, very cumbersome, difficult unit to work on. I would suggest draining the fuel out, draining the oil out of the fill and flipping it upside down to get all the gas out. That would be a lot easier. The safe way is the way I did it because you didn't tip the engine upside down. You do risk running a little bit of oil passing those rings, but you'll be fine for the amount of time you're going to have it upside down. You're fine to just drain the oil, flip it upside down, top up the oil, put gas. You do still have to drain that carburetor. So thank you for joining me. If you did enjoy this video or learn something, because I know I sure did, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps support future small engine content, and I hope to see you in the future.
Sounds right.